So in the previous lesson, we covered how to create surfaces through using curves. Now, in this lesson, I would like to cover how we clean up our curves so that we get better surface results. Side view, as it's just a habit, doesn't really matter. And then after the fact, you can rotate it as you see fit. So again, I'm going to go to create curves, EP curve, and as a habit, just reset it, because you never know who last used the Maya you're using and what settings they might have used, so always reset. And now we can draw a curve. Now I'm going to draw just a shape out that we can use. Yeah, so that I would like this shape to go into a different, well, transition from this shape to another shape. Okay, press enter to complete that. So after completing this curve, I'm going to go up to create curves, EP curve tool, and let's say I want this shape to maybe go into something less extreme. Maybe do that and then that. Or I am potentially not going to end up with the same number of CVs I had with the first curve I drew. So this is a problem you're going to be faced with a few times in your NURBS surfaces career. I'm just trying to round out the shape a bit better. Maybe that straight line comes into this more curved line. That straight line can come into a more curvy line. Okay, so I'm just like tweaking the shape a little bit. Maybe this straight line can go into a more rounded shape, something like that. As you can see, I'm trying to get the straights to go into flats and the very round parts into less round parts. Okay, like the other curve. Now I've got two different curves here. Now let's go see what problems would originate from this. I'm just going to move this guy out, because as you know, if you draw from the side view, it will be in the YZ plane. Now if I go do the loft that we've been doing up to this point, I'm going to go surfaces, loft. You will see that the NURBS surface is not as clean as the previous surfaces we've made. You got the isopalms not going like a nice straight clean lines. You've got some of them doubling up on each other and all that kinds of bad stuff. This is not a very good NURBS surface. I'm going to go and delete that. As you can see, I'm getting weird lumps and stuff, which should normally not be the case. I'm going to delete that surface. So I'm going to select this curve and let's jump into the attribute editor. Now the first thing I need to sort out is the min and max value. The min and max value should never ever be more than or less than 0 and more than 1. If you have that, you already see you've got a problem within your curve. So if I select this curve and I see it's 0 to 14 with 14 spans, and then I'll select this one, you can see this one is 0 to 15 with 15 spans. Okay? I would like the curves to have the same number of spans as well as their min and max values be between 0 and 1. Yeah, so by selecting this curve, I am going to go to curves and I'm going to go to rebuild options. So I know this guy has 14 spans, so I'm going to go just reset so you can see what I'm going to be doing. So as you can see, I want to rebuild it uniformly. Okay, I want to change my parameter range to from 0 to 14 to 0 to 1. Okay, and then I would like to keep the ends where they are. I'm going to use the cubic 3. Currently you can see it wants to use the default 4. So it was 14. So let's go drop it down to 10. And remember, I've said many times less is more when it comes to this. And then I'm going to go just keep original on for now and click apply. Now you can see the curve shifted, but not by a lot. As you can see, we are pretty much on par with our previously built curve, but this curve is nice and cleaner than the other guy. If it deformed too much, you can go right click, control vertex, and just bring the curve back to the original shape you intended to have. You see, I just need to move a few CVs around. Well, that was the wrong one. I wanted to move to the side there. And you can just move the CVs so that they match up with the original curve. But as I mentioned before, just keep in mind, because of degree of 3, this section of the curve is determined by these 3 CVs. So by moving this one, there's a good chance that you're going to move the one, well, how the curve deforms in the previous section. So you are going to go a little bit back and forth to get it as close as possible to the curvature of your original curve design. That wasn't too bad. Eventually you would need to move this guy slightly over, and you would need to go slightly in. You would need to go slightly to screen right, and as you can see, I would need to tweak that one. And I've got a guy in here that would want to be a bit more of a straighted curvature. This guy here, we can go a bit down, but you should get the point that you can go and tweak the rebuilt curve back into submission. And if you see you don't have enough CVs to get the curvature back to the way it was, you could always go and rebuild it again and increase the number of spans. You can see that doesn't really match up all too well. Well, it does if I just spend a little bit more time. But let's say the 10 didn't work. So I'm going to go to Control Object, just delete that curve, select it again, and then I'm just going to go reset everything again. So as you can see, everything stays the same. Let's go try 12 maybe. I can even do 14 as it was. Rebuild. As you can see, I did tweak the curve a little bit there. I'm just going to go back into curves, rebuild options. I want to say keep original and then apply. And then you can see it did move ever so slightly, but not as much as it did before. Now we've got more CVs to play with to get it back into the shape that we had, or the shape that we wanted originally. Great. There's another little section. You potentially need to go up a bit more. But now you need to keep in mind, I need to go find the curve that has been rebuilt. Not that one. That one, delete the rebuilt or the original one. Now you need to keep in mind that this guy has 14. Did I delete the wrong one? That guy, and shift select to select that guy. I mean, I want to delete that guy. Sweet. So this is the rebuilt one. You can see the min and max values 0 to 1. Now, when you want to have curves connect to one another through lofting or any of the other procedures we will learn about later, or you can dive into yourself, you would need them to have the same number of spans. So as you see, this guy had 15 or has 15. We're going to drop it down to 14. So I'm going to click apply. As you can see, I've got the new really rebuilt curve selected. I've kept the original. Now again, it's just about matching up your original curve to what you would like, because there wasn't such a big difference between the going from 15 to 14. There's not much corrections that we would need to do to get the curve that we want. Okay? It just depends on how much of a perfectionist you are. Object mode, I've got the 0 to 1 one, then hold on shift and just do a box selection or marquee selection over the other one. So that I select the 0 to 1 or 0 to 15 one, delete that. And now I should have two clean curves. I'm going to close this window. I'm going to go to perspective view. Now when I do a loft, it should result into a cleaner surface. I'm just going to go and reverse this surface, reverse surface direction. And if I go turn wireframe on shaded, you can see we've got nice isopalms. They're not doubling up like they did before, and they matching up to a corresponding CV on the other side, okay, which is great. Now I can go and just select the surface. I can go delete its history. So I'm going to go edit, delete by type history or Alt Shift D. Now it no longer listens to the curves. I can move them around and all the good stuff. Now that I have the surface, we can now produce a more cleaner version of the surface. Also add a bit more isopalms to maintain the resolution that we have. We're going to go and use the rebuild surface option. So I just want to make double sure that the history of the curves no longer affect that surface, which is good. Select my surface, go to surfaces and go rebuild options. As you can see, there are a lot more options in here. I'm going to go and just reset. I want to maintain the range of 0 to 1. I would like to, now with UVs, as I mentioned before, it's a single surface that gets bent into different shapes. And I've also mentioned that surfaces can't be UV'd, which means that whatever texture or material you add to this surface, it would need to be a procedurally generated material or texture. So now I'd like to see which direction is U and V. So let's go play with maybe increasing the V to say 10 and click apply. I can see, cool, that one's the V, and the one that dropped down in resolution is 4. That is the U. So I'm just going to go and undo that. I would like to preserve this nice curvature that we have. So I'm going to pop this guy up to maybe like 12. And the number of spans going through it from screen left to right, I can potentially get away with 2. I'm going to click apply. And as you can see, now we've got an extra isopalm that we can play with. The surface looks a bit cleaner, but I still don't like that tension here. So let's see if we drop it down to 10, what result we can get with. And now with 10, I get the same clean result with less isopalms and a smoother transition from one CV point to the other. I'm going to go and close this. Now I've got a nice clean surface. And then also if I go to control vertex or to the edit CV options, you can see I've got a little bit more control. I've got a little bit more options so now if we go into control vertex or CV mode, you will see I've got a lot more CVs to play with to tweak the surface if I needed to. If it didn't come out the way I wanted, I can also now add a better transition from one to the other rather than just a linear line, so that we can potentially get, I don't know, like a cool wheel well if you had to do like a car model. Now if you had to imagine the wheel inside there, and there's cars from like the 70s, you can get like a cool wheel well effect. Again, as I've mentioned before, less is more. So if you can get the surface that you want with less isopalms and less CVs, that would be ideal. So you would play around with this, see if it works. If you're not getting the result that you want, you can go and rebuild the surface again. But we can now also go and tweak the surface, for example, like this, and then rebuild on newly defined surface. Bring that guy out a bit because it's just collapsing in on itself. I can go to object mode. I like that hump that I'd added. I'm going to go select this guy, go to surfaces, rebuild, and now I can go, I will see I would need more resolution going from back to front. So I'm going to increase this guy. Would need more resolution here. So let's go try 11 and more resolution here. Let's drop it up to a 3. Click apply. That looks a lot better and a lot more evenly spaced. So I can now leave this as my final surface. I can go and control Alt D to delete the history. I can also see the surface is the min and max for the U and V range of 0 to 1, which is perfect. Everything is looking good on this surface. Now we can also go in, if I would like to now continue building off of this surface, I can go in and I can go, for example, because it's no longer listening to this curve and that this curve is no longer lining up with our surface properly, we can go and go right click isopalm, select that isopalm, and we can generate a curve from this isopalm. I'm going to go to curves, I'm going to go to duplicate surface curve, boom, and as you can remember, all the isopalms are theoretically curves and NURBS surfaces are built through curves. I'll deselect that guy. As you can see, if I bring it off there, I have a nice curve that follows the design line of our already created surface. If I just go undo that, so it's back there, I'm going to go check its attributes. It's 0 to 1 with 11 spans. That is great. I just want to go and select that again and control D it, move it, and then go back in here, deselect that surface, then select that. I can go to surfaces and loft, and now you can see I'm basically using existing geometry to create new, which is always great. So if I go select that curve in there, deselect surfaces, right click, control curve, move it, you'll see it'll edit the new surface but not the old, because there is not a history connection between this surface and the curve. This surface is controlled from that curve to this curve. So if I want to now move that curve, I would need to use the surface it came from originally, and then you can see the previously created surface drives the curve, and the curve in turn drives the new generated surface. So then you can start playing with transitions between the two. if you feel the need be. Great. Now we can start adding more things here if we feel the need for it. I'm going to go in here. I don't like how this thing is pulling here. Just pull that a bit back. Now again, this is patch modeling because we are creating a bunch of different patches of surfaces that will, in the end of the day, create a final shape. So now if I don't want the curves to do anything in regards to my surfaces, I'm going to go just select everything, Alt Shift D to delete history, and then I would like to go and deselect my surfaces so that I can go and delete the curves. And now I just have the surfaces. Now if I want, I can actually go and combine these two different surfaces through surfaces, and we can go to attach. As you can see, as NURBS do, they would like to create a smooth transition between the two. So if I undo that, you can see there's the seam line. I go to back and I go to attach, it tries to create a smooth transition. So now that I've attached the two surfaces, if I select this one, the previous surface is still there because we did not go into the attach options to uncheck keep original. But also in here we can see there's a blend option, which is what we got here. If we go and do the same operations, let's keep original on, and we just do a straight connect, we can go click apply. Now we have our new surface, and then Maya and the surface tries to keep the transition as sharp as possible as we had it in our previously built surface. Now you can see the three different methods of attaching two different surfaces together. So if I go, for example, try this one, but I'm not going to say keep, but I'm going to go say remove and click apply. And now let's go and move this guy over here. Let's go and reverse the surface because it's now just upside down. As you can see, it creates a very dirty NURBS surface because it has multiple isopalms sitting right on top of each other. The point of using surfaces is to have nice clean topology with relatively evenly sized spaces, or what is referred to as surface patches. So we want evenly sized surface patches as much as we can humanly possibly get. I'm going to go back to object mode, close that. So that's last one we did is a non-desirable result. We can potentially leave these two as they are. We don't really need to attach them, but also now the cool thing here is there is still history between these two. Well, there's still history on these guys that listen to the original. So if I grab the originals and move them, you can see they try and update as much as they can. Even though there's no surface here, Maya is trying to generate a smooth surface through the attach option that we use. So if I go here, you can see the blend one tries to keep a smooth surface. The just attach one is getting a sharp, crisp line. But as you can see, it's starting to collapse over itself, which is not ideal. I will potentially take it about here, for example, to get the attached one to look nice. Or if you want to just keep this one, you have the options to do so. So I'm just going to undo a few times. Now the same goes for if I go and move some of the CVs around. You can see the history connection we have still manipulates the new surfaces until we go and select these guys and Alt Shift D for delete history. And if we now move these original surfaces, you see they don't no longer drive the newly created ones through the attach operation. Is going to go and delete that. So we've gone through creating cleaner curves after we've drawn them. We also have gone through how to clean up our surfaces after we've generated them through lofting or planaring or revolving our curves. So remember guys, the rebuild is an option you can use after using any one of the three create methods that we use to create NURBS surfaces or surfaces. So the loft, as you know, through multiple curves, planar. If we have a closed curve, it'll just put a surface in there. And then the revolve, if you draw a cut through section of half of an object, you can revolve it to produce a full object. Let me just undo again because I want to show you one more thing. Because now I can go to isopalm, select one, and I can also go and detach so that they are two different surfaces and a detach. The detach operation happens at the isopalm that I had selected. So again, if I go to this one, for example, I can go to isopalm, select that one and that one, go to surfaces and detach. And now you'll see, we have three because this one detached before this one could detach. So again, just go to isopalm, do that, surfaces and detach. Now we've got 4 different NURBS surfaces from original one that we now can use to either produce more different curves or whatever our hearts desire. And with that, I'm going to end this lesson off here. And in the next lesson, we're going to go about creating more complex surfaces using some of the other tools that I'm highlighting currently to create more interesting shapes, which is going to be fun. So with that said, I will catch you in the next lesson.